with Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar. I'm, of course, Sandeep Unnithan. We are joining Gunner's Shots with Chakra News, very interesting new format that we're trying out. Of course, I have with me Colonel Anurag Avasthi, my colleague, and we're going to be talking about Trump's tariff war on India. But before that, there's a bit of breaking news, as most of you know, that President Donald Trump has finally appointed his envoy, if I may call it, to New Delhi, and that's Sergio Gore, born Sergio Gorakhovsky in Tashkent, Uzbekistan in 1986, which makes him just 38 years old or 39. One of the youngest US ambassadors to New Delhi. He's going to be taking over very shortly. His appointment, of course, comes at a very interesting time in India-US relations. It's one of the lowest points I can think of in my 3-decade career as a journalist. In fact, it possibly be the lowest in the last 27 years since Pokhran II. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about this morning. General Ravi Shankar, over to you. First, give us the state of play in India-US relations. And of course, we want to talk about Sergio Gore. But before that, where is the India-US relationship at right now under President Donald Trump?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sandeep, and morning to Avasthi. Great to be with both of you together. And for everyone who's watching this show, I must tell you, we're going to come on Saturday morning live at 9 o'clock, right? We're going through the pangs of initial adjustment. Please bear with us. And I'm sure you'll find a very intellectually stimulating talk, and we're going to explore new avenues, right? And I must also tell everyone, this is something from, go back, Sandeep and I go back to the time when I just retired from service, and Sandeep, and I gave all the inputs to Sandeep about what's happening in artillery. Many people didn't believe it, but Sandeep did. And Sandeep did a fantastic, coverage of it in India Today. I still remember. I still have that. Maybe one of these days I'll show it to everyone. And Sandeep will agree with me that everything what he's written has come true. In fact, I'll put it, yeah. And from that day, this is 2016, November 2016, and now we are 9 years down the line. I think 100% of what we predicted has come true.
Yes.
So that's the kind of analysis you're going to get here. That's what I wanted to first acknowledge, and Anurag also will be a permanent feature here. And Anurag has had a great innings in the army, and he was in the thick of things when a lot of change was happening in the army headquarters. Right. Having said that, let me now talk about India-US relationship, where it is. Like you have said, Sandeep, it's at the lowest, I feel. Right. What is important here is we have gone through many lows with US. It's not the first low. We've gone through lows in, post 62, we've gone to the post 71, post 65, sanctions, MTCR, and all that. What is so special about this new low? This new low comes after 25 years of sustained effort at building a great partnership. A strategic partnership, which Americans, bipartisan manner, have said this is the most consequential partnership of this century. Not for India, for USA. And here comes Donald Trump waving his tariff banner and overnight destroys it. When I say overnight, all this has happened, in the past 1 month, 2 months. He's destroyed it. And we are now at a stage where we have a relationship with USA, but it's no more strategic. I'm making a qualified statement.
Very interesting.
It's no more global. You see, the thing is global strategic partnership. It's no more global. It could be global in many ways, but the strategic part of the relationship has been broken. Because the first thing of a strategic partnership is trust. That's gone. But the relationship is very deep. It's very deep in terms of defense. It's very deep in terms of diaspora. It's deep in terms of a lot of flows, intellectual flows which happen between India and USA. One shouldn't look at it only by trade, because Trump has defined this relationship, or rather taken this relationship on the basis of trade, which is the minimalistic thing between India and USA. Most inconsequential thing, and is used India to beat Russia, which it is not there.
Right.
Right? On principle, it's not there. On volumes, it's not there. Okay. And his minions have been at it. So I would say his barking dogs.
Right.
Okay. And so it's at its lowest. And I don't know whether we will be ever be able to go back there. And in many ways, it has thrown a challenge to India, and I think India has taken it up, whichever way
Right.
you look at it.
Absolutely.
And
Thanks for setting that up, General Shankar. You put it in a way that I don't think very few people could have. And that's why I think your expertise extends far beyond just artillery, which I just spoke to you about, 9 years back. I think the most important thing you've said is that we had a global strategic partnership. And now we are not even sure if we have a partnership. The global has dropped, the strategic has dropped, and now even that partnership is being questioned. I think that's a very, very important setup by you. And you've just encapsulated what we've been thinking about over the last 1 month, this entire relationship that's been built up over the last 25 years. In fact, we keep talking about that edifice that was constructed. It had bipartisan support across, the Republicans, Democrats, presidents, George W. Bush, Clinton, Obama, the first Trump administration. But this Trump administration seems to have, driven, fired an artillery barrage, if I may say so, into that edifice. And, right now it is really shaky. And I want to ask Colonel Avasthi this because, apart from being in the army, he's a public policy specialist. He specializes in an area very few people have expertise in, which is semiconductors. And of course, we look at the United States a lot for electronics, for semiconductors, for know-how, diaspora, many other things. But, Colonel Avasthi, over to you. What do you see this relationship at? Where is it at right now? And then, quickly about if you can talk about the new US envoy to India as well, what we've just been hit with, the MAGA insider who's now been dispatched to New Delhi. Colonel Avasthi.
Thanks, Sandeep. Morning, General Shankar. Thank you for your thoughts. I will possibly, ring the same bell along with General Shankar, is that, from, the strategic part, you have moved to the transactional part. So transactional relationship is going to be the norm of the day, at least for the next 3 years, if I may say so. Now, there are three, four things that they need a little understanding of the whole thing. The first is the Indo-US relationship beyond personalities? One. The second thing is, are there two very major things that we are missing out from the bigger picture? One is the internal $37 trillion internal debt, which needs to be bridged in some manner or the other, insofar as the United States is concerned. As also, do you think the midterm elections next year are an important landmark or an important waypoint politically for Donald Trump? That also needs to be studied. So while those two things are very, very divergent in their own content and context, but somewhere down the line, the midterm also has a lot of role to play insofar as the US presidency is concerned, which all of us are aware. So that needs to be understood as to why this state of play is happening. Secondly, I am a little troubled with the aspect that our own diaspora has not spoken anything in the last 1 month. So I really thought that our diaspora would speak up a little, but somewhere there's quite a muted response from the Indian diaspora, which actually runs the US economy. You're aware, we've spoken about it, that we have created at least 66 people have created bigger than billion-dollar enterprises for the United States of America. And you know where we are in the overall calculus there, but somehow nobody has spoken there in the last 1.5 months of this entire tariff war which is going on. Now, a lot of people have this, story of hyphenation back again of India, Pakistan, this, that, and the other. I really don't think so. I think we should not hyphenate. We should just take it a little easy because there are too many things at play. See, let me go a little more historically into the picture. China has always sought reapproachment. Uh, let's go back to the times of 1971 conflict. General Shankar will bear me out. If you recall, China had that Usuri River crisis on one side and Vietnam on one side, and that is the time there was a visit from Kissinger, and then of course the famous visit of Nixon back in China. And that is the time when the Pakistanis, when they were creating a havoc and genocide in 1971 in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, which was liberated by us, the Chinese looked away. Right? Possibly, I have a feeling that the reapproachment of the Chinese somehow has always been historically a very live example insofar as we are concerned. So while I would always say that should tread this with caution insofar as the Indo-US, US, strategic partnership is concerned, but I have a feeling it transcends beyond personalities. So fingers crossed. I think something should come out of it once the personalities change at some stage in time across the Atlantic.
Right.
The
Yeah.
second part that you asked me, Sergio Gore.
Yeah.
He's young. He's MAGA. I don't know whether he'll be a good fit for Eric Garcetti. I do not know how he will function out. But let us not go into his antecedents of being born in the erstwhile Soviet Union and what have
Oh, he
you.
was very small.
For
I
all
mean,
you
he
know,
moved out when he was very young. So that's just
that is
a
correct.
footnote. Yeah.
Yeah. So beyond his antecedents, I think we should wait and watch what he comes with because A, he's young. B, he has the ear of the White House. C, he may be of more importance to us as time goes by than the others have been. So I would possibly look at a very cautious casualism insofar as he is concerned and he's coming here. So let's see what he does. So I will not possibly read too much between the lines right now. So let's see what he does.
Right. Let's see what he does. Indeed, General Shankar, Sergio Gore, quick takeaways. His appointment, very unusual candidate. I mean, we completely missed him again. In fact, just 2 days back, we were talking about how is it that United States is allowed the embassy in New Delhi to be headless for almost 8 months now. And lo and behold, a Trump insider, the insider's insider, as they call him, Sergio Gore. And incidentally, he was the one that, if you remember, Jan Shankar, he is the one whom Elon Musk had called a snake. And he said he had a role in the fallout between Trump and Musk. So he comes with a lot of baggage and he's clearly an insider. He's a MAGA core insider. Is he going to function as an independent envoy, Trump's eyes and ears in New Delhi? Or is he just going to be like consigliere? He just executes what Trump tells him to do. Would he have his own voice, Jan Shankar?
Yeah, let's analyze him a little deeper. First, he's young, so he'll tend to be brash. That's a normal thing. The second thing is he's got no background of this entire area.
Right.
Zero. I went through his CV. He's got zero background of India or this entire area. So he comes with no knowledge. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it, he comes with no baggage.
Right.
Okay. So that's the thing. The second thing, there are 5, 6 important things which I'll analyze. This is the first thing. The second thing, if you go into his background, he started his career, about 10 years back to 2020 onwards. He is completely on Trump's bandwagon. Inner core. His business has flourished through Trump's son.
Yeah.
And he's gotten. And he is virtually Susie Wiles' protege.
Right.
Susie Wiles is the chief of staff of Trump. And she is probably the closest to Trump. And if you went through her, presidents and the relationship between Trump and Susie Wiles, it is said that Susie Wiles is one person who can handle Trump the best. In fact, she is accredited to be the one who handles Trump the best, and Trump listens to her.
Hmm.
Okay, so she has selected this fellow to be coming here. So you have to understand now this chap, young guy who's come here, has a direct relationship with Susie Wiles and now then Trump. So to that extent, it's a very important appointment.
Hmm.
Now let me take it further. He has come with the appointment of not only being ambassador to India, but he's also America's special representative to South and Central Asia.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to analyze this appointment a little more deeply and to understand what this man is going to do, whatever he does. Okay. So this has got two. Let's look at the ambassador part of the story. Ambassador to India. He has been appointed as an ambassador to India after a gap of 8 months. And at a time when the relationship is going completely down south, deep sea, the
Right.
depths of the deep sea. That itself is a clear admission that they want to rectify the situation.
Hmm.
They feel that the situation in India is going out of hand. Overnight, he does this. It's overnight. And it's his ego which doesn't permit him to call back Mr. Modi to get a rapprochement or whatever. So this is the indirect man. This is the best he can do at this point of time to get a person whom he trusts
Right.
to start talking to India. Okay. So I think it's a very important thing. Now let me put it in context. Why? I mean, the psychology and the whole story you have to understand not through what's happening with USA, but what happened with China.
Hmm.
I'll take you back to October 22. October 22, Xi Jinping, holds the 20th Party Congress. He's at top of the shack, China peak, all that. Then come 23, he takes off all the restrictions on COVID. And the expectation is that China will soar economically and everything. Okay. And that is the time when Xi Jinping puts his entire story, this entire cabinet, Politburo, the standing committee, the Politburo, everyone in place, right? With the surety that the Sinocentric world order has arrived. Whole thing, story flips, right? Okay. But that's a later day story. But at that point of time, he appoints Su Windong. Su Windong was the Chinese ambassador to India at that point of time as the vice premier, and he takes him back
Right.
into China. And after that, he didn't appoint an ambassador. Now, like I said, the hope was that look, he wanted to teach India a lesson. If you don't have an ambassador, your foreign policy can be brash and, in fact, animist,
Right.
antagonistic. That's what happened 23 onwards. Right. Soon go through 23, go through first quarter of 24. You find that the Chinese economy started tanking. And all the problems of China, actually, after COVID, China has been on a downslide. It's never recovered. A whole lot of PLA purchase. You take any factor in China, it's gone downhill. And then what he does, May 2024, he appoints Yu Fi Hong, who's now the ambassador here. All of a sudden, after 18 months, he comes in. It's taken 18 months. And what does this man do? He starts appearing everywhere, which he is. Okay? He is trying to build bridges with India. And now, he is the one who led up to Kazan. The rapprochement with, Xi Jinping, where we said disengagement at Depsang and Demchok and all that. All that happened after the ambassador came here, not before. I mean, so and now you see that he is now leading up to a prime minister going to SCO, and we are talking. They're making use of the opportunity presented by USA, and this has sent a huge warning bell to
Washington.
USA. Yeah, Washington. And they're worried. So they've done this. So you see the parallels. It's
Right.
taken only 8 months for them, not even 8 months, 1 month to understand where they have gone, what they have lost. That's the second. Trump has been facing a lot of pushback from their intellectual community. See, the
Right.
trade between India and China and USA is negligible. It might be great for India, but for USA, it's not. You are the 10th or the 12th trading partner. But the trade per se is not important. The other ties are more important.
People to
And
people ties.
a whole lot of people, strategicians are saying, you lost India. I mean, that's the worst thing you could have done. Now there's a pushback from within the Republican Party.
Right.
Okay. Now there's a pushback within the Republican Party. Okay. Not only there's a pushback within the Republican Party, even economically, things are going downhill in USA. The Fed chairman has already come out and said your GDP is going to be down. And
Right.
he is right. So yesterday only he made this speech. So the issues, I mean, look, whatever you say, Trump is backed by a set of guys who know what they're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all deliberate. And now they see that whatever they've done with India is having an opposite effect. Now, if you and Nikki Haley's article in Newsweek, I think is very important. But not many of us have read it. Not many of us have understood what she has conveyed. She has very clearly conveyed you are fighting with China. If you are fighting with China, you need India, and India is the only one which can replace China at scale. Scale matters. There's no one else in terms of markets and everything else. So suddenly, I think that internal pushback, this, that, I mean, everything which I've said, that the way India is behaving is having an opposite effect of what they're trying. The Scott Bessent and Peter Navarro type of barking is making the opposite effect, right? So I think this is what he's trying. Okay, now he sent this guy who's confident and who he can, he might not be experienced, but he's got his, confidence. So there's going to be a direct connect in, and I think this is the first sign of a thaw. The first sign of a thaw. Okay.
Right.
The second part of the story. This is his position as an ambassador here. Second part of the story as a special envoy to this area, South Asia and Central Asia. Please understand, here comes the larger picture. Someone in Trump administration has started thinking. He said, look, don't be foolish. Why? I have to again now go back to last month. Last month, when Eric Kurila went to Pakistan,
Yes.
and Eric Kurila had got a medal from all this, an important event happened. And that important event was that there was a conference of all Central Asian military chiefs between Eric Kurila, Asim Munir, and all those people from Tajikistan and all those people, for
Yeah,
4 or
all the
5 of
stuff.
them came.
Right.
And they spoke. And at that time itself, it didn't. I mean, my view was, look, US is making an outreach into Central Asia. Okay. Now that is a military outreach, and probably they thought they'd pull it off through Pakistan and all that. And
Right.
someone would have told them in this thing, look, don't be a fool. Pakistan is a no-go. It's a dead end, and you will not get anything out of Pakistan. And hence now they're coming back here. And his appointment as a special representative of this area, it's a big area, mind you, and that man has sent South and Central Asia, right? And that man to be positioned in Delhi is pretty important. So
Right.
there's a political angle turning out. Ultimately, I'm of the firm opinion, and it's my conviction, that Trump is still aiming at China. The route is different. He's gone all over the countryside, but he's still aiming at China. The larger
Right.
thing. Okay, that has not gone off the table. So putting this guy, opening things, I mean, they're worried somewhere, right? They have to probably go back. So I think there's a lot of value. I think there's a very important development the way I look at it. It's not something, it's just a chap who's come, who's young and all that. No. The kind of confidence this fellow has engaged, and you see the tweet which has come out from Trump in the, right.
You have that tweet, we
And
can pull it out.
yeah, you can just read it out if you want, right? And
I'm pleased to announce I'm promoting Sergio Gore to be our next United States ambassador to the Republic of India and special envoy for South and Central Asian affairs. Absolutely right. What you were just saying, that it's not just about India, but it's also about South Asia, as the Americans call it, and Central Asia. As Director of Presidential Personnel, Sergio and his team have hired nearly 4,000 America First patriots across every department of our federal government in record time, which is in the last 7 or 8 months. Our departments and agencies are now over 95% filled. And Sergio will remain in his current role at the White House until his confirmation. He's a great friend who's been at my side for many years. He's worked on my historic presidential campaigns, published my best-selling books, and ran one of the biggest super PACs which supported our movement.
so that's the point.
He's literally
That's the
given
point.
us biodata.
Yeah, not only biodata. It's not a matter of
Yeah.
biodata. The glowing terms indicates that
Yes,
he has Trump's confidence.
right.
And Trump is sent. And like I told you, if you go further into the thing, he's connected with Susie Wiles.
Yes,
Well, Elon Musk might have called him a snake. I have no issue with it. That's their internal
right.
politics.
That's between him and Musk.
That is him between him, Musk, and Scott Bessent. Because I believe that Scott Bessent and Musk had a fist fight also. Okay, they've gone to that level. I mean, they're internally also they're not very strong in terms of ideology. They're not
Right.
strong in terms of ideology because Trump is the guy who switches.
Right.
For them also they have a difficult thing. So it is somewhere I wouldn't say the permanent establishment in USA has started realizing, look, we have gone wrong.
Right.
So will this change things immediately? I don't think it can change. That's
You
my
mean
view.
the damage is so deep that it can't be undone?
Look, I will not say that I will say whether it's a damage or not, it's a different story. The fact is, certain things have altered. The first thing which has gone is trust.
Right.
Right? So I don't think we can trust America strategically. Right? So it gives us tremendous options. It frees us. It's not necessary that we turn to China.
Right.
That's not the thing. But there are huge options which are open up, and for the time being, we have to start looking at them. It gives us greater leverages. Okay.
Right.
And also, you cannot ignore USA. You have a great relationship with them. You have deep contractual relationships with them. You're still getting F404 engines. You got only 3. You have paid up for them. You have to get value. You're not going to just break off tomorrow. There are 23 defense programs.
Yes.
23 defense programs which are ongoing. And some of these programs are as old as 20 years, 2 decades. And they have still to run their life. So it's not something which we should, just say, oh, because we don't like Trump, we forget this relationship. Start dealing with them. That's a different thing. You're still going for this Yudhabhyas. First, it's starting. It's starting in 10 days' time. A Bandras battalion is going to Alaska in the same place where Trump and this fellow Putin met. We're going to do
of course.
Okay. We're going to do an exercise there.
Exercises with any country. The United States, land, sea, all kinds of exercises.
They do big exercises, right? So we're going to do that there. And then all these multilateral exercises are there. Malabar has been a signature exercise between all these countries, including USA and India.
Right.
Okay. So the depth of engagement is huge. What about ISRO? ISRO carries payloads from NASA into space.
Yes.
Right? So I think the depth of this relationship is too much. Trump or no Trump, USA and India can't get away from each other.
Yeah, that's right. It's
You can't get away from each other, right?
So
you have to be with each other. One more point. I want to define, because this is a thing which people will say, look, this gentleman is talking all for USA. I'm not talking for USA. There are practicalities. Okay, you flip it the other way around. Whichever way you look at it, what is your relationship with China except dependence?
Right.
It's a one-way dependence, isn't it? You're depending on them.
Yeah.
So your relationship here, the relationship is of interdependence, and there the relationship is of dependence,
Right.
right? With whether you like it or not, the trust with China is even worse. He's a
Right.
neighbor. He's sitting. It
Right.
is, it's military in nature. It's going to hurt you, and you
Yeah.
might get into a war with China. You'll never get into a
Right.
war with USA. So when in this kind of a thing, you have to understand which is the better relationship. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to do a show called IFF, who's Identify Friend or Foe.
Identify friend or foe. Right. That's,
Okay, so I think I've taken a lot of time. Over to you. Yeah, you
no,
have this.
it's perfectly. You've again, highlighted this very very significant issue that while we have our differences with the United States and the fact that we are at the lowest point in the last 25 years, if not more. I think the last time we saw this kind of thing was Pokhran 2, 1998,
Yeah,
and in 27 years, I think there's been a slow build up. And we are where we were a few months back. I think we had kind of taken the relationship for granted. We had assumed that it was a marriage, nothing was going to happen. But like you said, there doesn't seem to be. There is a certain dependence both India and the United States have on each other, especially when the US is looking at containing China, and that's of course their biggest strategic worry. Heading into the 21st century. But so one Trump might not be sufficient to completely cause a divorce. I mean, it possibly cause marital issues here, assuming we are in a in a marriage. But Colonel Avasthi, what's your take on this? I mean, how significant is this appointment going to be at a time? I can't think of any other. While we are at a very low point in India-US relations, I cannot think of another time in geopolitics, a year that has been as significant as 2025. It's not just Operation Sindoor, but if you look at what's next, what's unfolding in the 4 months that we have left in this year, you're looking at Prime Minister Modi traveling to China for the first time in 7 years. You're looking at President Putin coming to India for the first time in several years, but after the US are rift with the US. You have a possibility of President Trump visiting India for the Quad Summit. And of course, Prime Minister Modi travels to the United States. So it is that very defining moment in India, China, US, and Russian relations. And it's a very complicated set of relations. We're not used to, charting through such waters. And as General Shankar was saying, this is a perfect IFF moment for us. Identify friend or foe. And I'd like to add, a third category to that, General Shankar, if I may. It possibly is IFF, the third F, which is frenemies. So, while you have China, it's hard to define what China is. China is not a friend. It's certainly not an enemy, I would say, at the moment. It's more of a frenemy. There is a certain dependence that's built into this. But, Colonel Avasthi, our IFFF moment, friend, foe, frenemy, lay this down out for us. Where are we at right now?
Right, Sandeep. See, firstly, IFF or IFFF or BFF or whatever you may call them. Firstly, in international relations, there are no friends or enemies. It's only
That's right.
interests.
Yeah.
So we should be very clear about that. There are no friends. There are no enemies. That's the way it is. I again reiterate the same point that this Indo-US relations it transcends personalities.
Right.
It's deeper. It's much deeper because the the plus points and minus points also are kind of interconnected. Now, I have a very different kind of a take on this.
Hmm.
See, I think the present dispensation in the United States is doing something what we call in the military called probing attacks.
Right.
They're probing
Right.
attacks. Now, let
Right.
me give you a small pattern of this entire probing attacks.
Right.
You transact some kind of a, put in a business case model over the entire geopolitics and say, look, let's look at China. Let's not look at China as China threat. Let's try to change it as China competitor. Will this model work?
Right.
Right. So it's model one. Model two, the White House is very clear and now understanding that it has to choose. There are some very difficult and harsh transatlantic choices which has to
Hmm.
choose. There are some transatlantic choices, Europe or Russia. I mean, take a call. Then there's this raging war in Ukraine, right? Which is not stopping. It started in February of 2022, and we are now, touching the ebb of 2025. And you can imagine, as we've always said and
We're entering the
spoken,
fourth year.
that
It's unimaginable.
countries don't go to, countries go to war, armies don't go to war. So look at
Right.
the war machine which is going on. Now, in the same time, you talk peace in Ukraine and you dispatch warships to Venezuela, which controls 17% of world's oil, right? Look at the signature, build up which is taking place. In the same time, when you go back to June or end of June, you suddenly find that the NATO meets and it says that we will commit 5% of our GDPs towards defense. It also looks at a rearm Europe plan
Right.
in which they say that, look, Europe has to come in. A couple of days back, they say, okay, Ukraine is not for NATO. It's not open for NATO. After the Trump and Putin summit back in Alaska. So then on top of all of this, you have the Indo-Pacific. So it's been brought out. You think Quad is going to go away in a hurry? It can't. There's so much of you know resources invested in the Quad today. While it may not have a very important secretariat and whatever you may say, but finally Quad is a very, very important grouping insofar as the
Hmm.
Indo-Pacific is concerned. Then you look at the underpinnings of ISET, which looks at the entire high-tech sector, which includes semiconductors, critical technologies, what have you. Then there's
Right.
Indusex, which has taken so much of shape now insofar as the startups in defense and aerospace are concerned. And there's so much of collaboration which is happening. Then there's the Mineral Alliance, which India has joined last time, when the Honorable Prime Minister was back there. So there's that looks at rare earths. So while all of this is playing out in a manner which it is playing out, I have a feeling that it's just a kind of a probing kind of a sequence which is being followed, and how it is going to be panning out at a particular stage. So then itself, after by around what I foresee is in the next 3 to 4 months, I think
Right.
the picture will be a little more clear for the White House as to which line they have to toe.
Right. Interesting
So
take.
while this,
Yeah. Jan Shankar, probing attack versus a strategy in play, you think it is one of several lines of advance that they're looking at, or as several strategies, or do they already know what they're planning to do? Does Trump really know what he's playing for, what he's playing at?
Look, I'm very clear. There's no probing, probing, and all. I mean, sorry, Avasti. That's the nice word you used. That's a diplomatic word you used. I see taco in this.
Right.
Very clear. They like, but the sum total of what Anurag has said is right. The depth of the engagement is so much that they can't go away. See,
Yeah.
those
Right.
basic foundational treaty agreements we've had, Gismova, Becca, Lemova, and all
Absolutely.
those are actually treaties.
That's right.
They're treaties. I mean, some can't be revoked also. You can't,
absolutely,
some you can get away, but some can't, you can't revoke them.
Absolutely.
you
You know,
can't.
it's like the bedrock of a building. It's a foundation of a
Building,
building.
you can't take it off. Okay,
25-year-old building, and you're trying to,
yeah. You can't take it off. So that's one. Then look at the kind of investment their tech companies have done in India.
right.
Okay, I just to put figures. There are global enablement centers in India. 1,800 of them who do research on for their tech, and tech is their biggest industry today. You see,
Money spinner.
right? So somewhere people would have realized, yeah, what are you doing? You're going to rule. If you let go of India, you already in a problem with China. You're not making any headway with Russia. He's milking you.
Yeah.
Putin is actually playing out Trump. And what do you get out of Ukraine? And the European economy is in shambles.
Yes.
Okay. Now you have already said this is a dead economy, yeah, whoa, all this nonsense you've spoken. Now it will be going to be very difficult if you have to reverse course with India, right? And as Nikki Haley, I mean, again, I get back to that article
Yeah.
of Nikki Haley. What she says, look, it's important that President Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have a direct one-to-one.
Hmm.
But that one-to-one will not happen. Narendra Modi will not ring up Trump, and Trump will not ring up Narendra
Right.
Modi.
Right. Of course, they're
I mean,
both very proud men. Yes.
yeah, and I will back my Prime Minister. Very
Yeah,
simple,
absolutely.
because
After
right
what Trump has said, I mean, which is
that
very,
yeah, I will back my Prime Minister. Why should my Prime Minister speak to this fool?
right.
Okay, for whatever he said. So I think that's an important thing, for the that president. Now he also can't, because then he'll go back. He's also got his ego.
Hmm.
So this is a new opening they're doing. They don't have a choice. Geostrategically, they don't have a choice, and we all knew it.
Right.
And that is
Right.
not only this. Not to add to what Anurag has said. What about IMEC?
Yes.
What about IMEC? IMEC is going
IMEC is,
ahead.
yeah, absolutely. And IMEC and the Abraham Accords, it's so essential. It's an essential component of
Essential,
India.
and none of this will function without India.
Yeah.
You see, whether USA joins IMEC or not, IMEC is going ahead between India, Saudi Arabia, and UAE.
Right.
Okay, and it will one day reach USA and Europe. Both of them will say, "Yeah, if suppose he puts barriers to that, well, thank you. You can keep your tariffs with you."
Right. I think we've lost John Shankar there, but Colonel Avasti, this IMEC is a very important subset of the India-US relationship, and it was announced in New Delhi in 2023 at the G20 summit, and that is literally driven by so many countries, mutual interests, the convergence of all our interests. That is such an important part of the India-US relationship. It's and strangely, there's been no talk of that, of late. It's fallen off the radar. Possibly also because of what we're seeing at the other end of it, the Israel end of it. There's conflict, of course, and one of the takeaways of the Gaza Israel war is the fact that it was the IMEC that they were aiming at. This was a war against a restoration or normalcy or something. What's your take on this? IMEC completely off the radar for now.
It's my take on this is, Sandeep, it's not essentially off the radar. It is because of what's happening in Israel Gaza conflict. So possibly
Right.
that is only delaying the whole process. It is the centerpiece of what was announced in the G20 last year.
Yeah.
So I think that is what is just delaying the whole thing. I mean, it's just a matter of conjecture. Now, having said that, when I have to look at the Indo-US relations, typically because of my background and my work, I generally don't look much in terms of infrastructure because that takes years to develop. I look at it in terms of two things: a, tech, which is
Yeah.
very, very important, and the other is scale.
Right.
So when I say scale, I essentially mean markets and making a business case. When I say tech, when I say, tech essentially means, critical technology, semiconductors, GCCs. You're looking at, various data centers which are going to be coming up because you're going to be the data capital of the world, et cetera, where the Indian and the US interests are not only aligned because it gives you the market, and B, there's a huge amount of scope for technology transfer, which is cutting edge technologies. So while I look at it this way, I still am a little optimistic. So I'm not saying that I should be pessimistic and I should be towing a line here, there, and everywhere. See, the whole idea is, for me, the country's interest comes first.
Right.
We are very clear on that. And as General Shankar has said, why should my prime minister speak with him? Where's the point?
Yes.
It's not required. Why should he speak with him? He is my prime minister, and he doesn't need to speak with anybody. But having said that, the tech infrastructure, the various infrastructure which has now taken root insofar as the defense collaboration and cooperation is concerned, the security calculus in the Indo-Pacific, and whatever is happening in this part of the world, what is happening transatlantic is of no consequence to me either way. It may have some consequence economically, but when you look at things littorally or maritime,
Yeah.
in a very maritime kind of an environment, how does it affect me? It doesn't. It really doesn't. So in that case, I think I would still, put technology and various defense corporations much over this infrastructure. So I think at this juncture I would keep
Yeah.
it around little lower end, but
Right.
this is
Right.
my
Right, till normalcy returns to the Middle East. But 2 points from what you just said. I want to ask General Shankar this technology and defense cooperation. And there was a very significant announcement on Friday, Friday the 22nd, when Defense Minister Rajnath Singh said that France's Safran has been the choice for the fifth generation fighter aircraft, the AMCA. It's a very significant announcement, General Shankar.
Yes.
The fact that we have chosen France and not the United States and not the UK, not GE, not Rolls-Royce, but Safran of France to power our fifth generation fighter aircraft. You think that was an outcome of whatever has been going on between India and the United States in the last couple of days? Or is this something that has already been decided by the government? Your thoughts on this?
Look, these things don't happen overnight.
Right.
One, the first thing. The second thing is, uh, we've had so much problems even with G404 engines.
Right.
One, we wanted the 414. We're not making headway. And if you look at it historically, we've not got any technology from USA so far.
Right.
We got equipment, but no technology.
Nothing.
So
We
that's
have
the
zero.
first. Zero technology. Nothing has been made here, right? So, in fact, we've only bought items. That's about it. So, let's be very clear. So, whether you have a good relationship with USA or not, you're not going to get technology from them. You're not going to get technology from them at all. Let's look at Russia. You had a 70 plus years relationship with Russia. You still not got defense technology from them. They've been good friends. They've
Yeah.
helped us out at our worst times. No, I have no doubt about it. But they've not given you technology. You have to look at it very practically. Has anyone else given you technology? No. Right. With France, ever since the dealing with Rafale, I will go back before Rafale. You look at Mirage, all that. We've had a lot of eludes from them. All your Chitaks are all basically eludes.
Yeah.
Right. So you had an equation with them from a long time. Many people don't understand this equation with the French people. And the French people have a very independent way of looking things. You see, for a long time, if you understand in the West, the French system is the odd man out.
Right. Right.
People don't understand this. Many times, when it suited France, it was part of NATO. When it suited, it was not part of NATO. It didn't
Absolutely.
adopt NATO standards. France never adopted NATO standards. Even now, it doesn't adopt NATO standards. It has its own standards. It has its own technology. It has its
Right.
own way of doing things. And we've had this equation with France from a long time. It's not new. Please understand, France is one of the few countries which has had your contingents walk down the Champs-Élysées twice.
Hmm.
Okay. So our relationship with France, people must understand, is pretty deep, pretty deep.
But no
And
technology
France,
from the French again, General Shankar.
no,
No
no,
technology.
let's come to that. With the French Rafale deal, you started getting something here of Dassault.
Right.
Not technology, not hardcore technology, but of a footprint in India about whatever the French footprint in India came in. The
Right.
actual footprint, it's not imaginary. So this saffron deal is an extension of that.
Right.
Next,
Right.
saffron, you had great dealings with saffron throughout. I mean,
Yes.
for people who don't understand saffron, saffron is not only about engines. Saffron is also about INS, a
Right.
lot of things. So, a lot of your missiles, everything, have saffron systems already. You
Yes.
buy bits and pieces from them. Okay, your precision systems, procure a lot from saffron, right? And you know, and the histories go back. You have to go back to that helicopter deal which went sour. You remember that big thing which happened in the UPA era.
In the
I'm
2000,
forgetting
you're
that.
talking about 197
Westland,
helicopter.
Augusta
Augusta
Westland.
Westland.
Okay, saffron had a thing because saffron was powering that in some manner.
Right. Right.
Okay, so you're dealing with saffron directly.
Right. It's
They're
a
not going to
G2G
give you.
from what we understand. Yeah. Government to government
It
deal.
will. I mean, it will be after all G2G with saffron establishing a
Yeah.
setup here.
And they're
It makes
offering us
immense
100%.
sense.
They're offering us 100% transfer of technology. They're offering us IP, all of that. I mean, that those are
Let's
huge.
see. Look,
Yeah.
at this
Let's
point
see.
of time, I will not
Yeah.
comment on that. How much of a TOT will get? How much of it will actually transform everything? That's a deal in
Right.
process. Okay. Just because our defense minister said this at this point of time doesn't mean that deal is through.
Right. Right. Of course.
It's in process. I
Yeah.
mean, having dealt with all these have their own life, but
Hmm.
it's a positive development.
Right.
And even this, you see, and these developments are not new. These are well known. These are public, and they're going ongoing. All this would have set alarm bells in USA.
Yes. The timing of this, no, it is the
Timing of
timing.
the thing. And
Right. Genes
look,
is
it's not only
completely out of
that.
the equation. Yeah.
It also gives a different kind of a strategic signal to many.
Right.
One, your AMCA program is going to go ahead. You have a
Yes.
partner. And that fellow is going to put his roots here. And
Yeah.
once the roots are put here, you'll develop on it. And it makes immense sense for France to enter India because it's not just about engines powering AMCA. It is
Yeah.
about Indian aviation. Indian
Yes.
aviation is slated to be the biggest aviation industry in the next 2 decades. It's going to surpass China.
Right. Right.
So why will not France get in? They already put Dassault here. They'll put Safran here. They might tomorrow. You might find Airbus here. You'll be very
Right.
happy. Let them come.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So there are a whole lot of things, and I'm sure people would be saying, "Oh, what's happening?" In you. So they have sent this guy. They've opened this. This is the first sign of a thaw. I get back to that,
Right.
and you're going to
Sergio
see many
Gore.
things happening.
Right. It is yes, many things happening, and as that saying, which is falsely attributed to the Chinese, says that may you live in interesting times. I think we're
Right.
living in the most interesting times of the 21st century. I can't, in the first quarter of the 21st century, 25 years to be precise, we've seen such ups and downs. As who was it who said that there are weeks when nothing happens and there are days when years happen? Something
Happen.
the sheer speed and pace of events have taken us completely by surprise. But Colonel Avasthi, over to you. Closing comments. We are looking at a new dynamic over here where our traditional, strategic, long-term strategic partnerships are in jeopardy. New partnerships possibly are being worked out. Interests, as you said so succinctly, is if nations are driven by their supreme national interests and not so much by friendship or personal equations. Personal chemistry doesn't matter so much as national interests matter. But the view from Delhi right now, where you're looking at this a different kind of a quad. We have a traditional quad which is Japan, Australia, and India, and the United States. But now we have a different quad that's playing out in 2025, where you have India, you have the United States, you have China, and you have the Russian Federation. right? So this is a new set of quad that I think India will have to kind of manage this year, especially in the months from now. We'll have to rework our alignments. We'll have to, rebalance or whatever. But your take on this new quad, Colonel?
Right. Thanks, Sandeep. You're a very, very important point. Firstly, this new chord which you mentioned, it's absolutely clear. Now, just let me segue a little firstly to the technology part, which you just mentioned. So I'll ask you a counter question. Have we ever bought a fighter aircraft from the United States in 75, 76
We
years?
haven't, but then we've committed our entire indigenous fighter aircraft program to the United States, which is GE engines.
Right,
The LCA
right,
powered
right,
by GE 414, 404, and then 414. So
right. Now,
that's a big.
Going ahead from here, so the question is, I'm sure you understand what I say, that we still haven't bought a fighter aircraft in the United States in
Yeah, you
so many
haven't.
years
We
of our
haven't bought the
independence.
entire thing, but we bought a very
Yes,
important component of it.
only a component. Right. Now, when you come to technology, there are two kinds of TOT. One is a manufacturing TOT and the other is design TOT. Nobody will give you the design TOT. No one. Because, and why should anybody give you design TOT? If your engineers
Scoundrels,
and if your
I see
corporations are
that.
working for 25 years to create something, why would
Yes,
I give it away for some price? No, I won't give it away. Right. So this entire construct that somebody is going to give the technology away, it will not happen. So, and you will
right,
not do the same. So why expect something from the other side?
right,
Now, a lot of countries post the dawn of the First World War realized that
right,
their power projections, their politics, their money, their security, their spinning of dual use technologies,
right,
their mixing of commercial and defense technologies come from a single entity called the military industrial complex.
right, right,
Uh, that is the time we were just about getting independent. So we were still under the British Raj. So somewhere that is the time. I think it is a revenge of time that we could not get into this bandwagon. So that's why we seem to be getting these things correct today as we speak, right? Now, you've spoken about saffron and everything else and AMCA, and then thereafter possibly making the same engine as to 120 kilonewtons, possibly replacing that engine for the Tejas Mark II or whatever it is. But this
right,
is all speculative. How it works out tomorrow, you do not know, right? So let us be quite clear about the subject insofar as the saffron and G and all of that is concerned. Of course, right now, why this aspect has triggered a lot of debate is because post various accidents of Boeing, as also a little dismal show by Boeing in the Paris Air Show this time, with most orders going to Airbus. This is a little defining moment for the US aerospace industry vis-a-vis the French aerospace industry.
right,
Basically signaling that, look, you're not the only one. There are other options also which we can explore, and we can hinge as well as leverage our friendships and our good offices to get whatever we need to do for our own good. So this is the first thing which I can look at insofar as this saffron engine of what Honorable Raksha Mantri has said yesterday. Now for the last part of the new chord which is coming up. I think personally that we need to have a little thaw insofar as this chord is concerned. How it plays out between Russia, China, and India is going to be the most important aspect of this chord.
right,
The US geographically is a little away. The US, in terms of political construct today, is a little on the other side insofar as personalities are concerned. So, is this going to be also a podium to give the RIC a little room,
right,
or the Russia, India, China axis? Now, that also needs to be understood. However, there are two, three things insofar as this entire chord is concerned. In this chord, which you just mentioned, only two are democracies. The two have a very different political system. The second part is that while the two are democracies and the other two are literally connected to India, they're in the same area literally, and in maritimely zones and all of that. So how it plays out is going to be very, very, very interesting in the next around 1 year's time. Till I again come back to that same benchmark of midterm elections in the United States.
Right.
So
That is
that,
in
I think, will be the
2026.
defining moment
Right. Right.
as to how they intend playing out and what happens thereafter.
Yes. Yes. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Colonel Avasti. What a fascinating discussion this has been. The last 1 hour. I mean, we've literally covered the length and breadth of this relationship, which is a 25-year relationship that we've built up, and whose foundations seem to be, in jeopardy with the Trump wars the Trump tariff wars that have been launched, and of course, as General Shankar pointed out, Sergio Gore's appointment could be a sign of a thaw in that relationship, and who knows how things will play out. But the fact is that regardless of all of this, we're going to be looking at a very, very interesting 3 years ahead, and I have a feeling that we're going to be touching on this topic. We'll be coming back to all of the points that we raised today in our subsequent discussions. So for all of you who are watching us, do stay tuned for some of the finest, the most succinct analysis of the state of play in geopolitics, in defense and strategy in India, and of course the rest of the world right now. This is a new collaboration that we worked out with Gunner's Shot and Chakra News YouTube channels. So do stay tuned. 9 a.m. Saturdays, we'll be there to give you a ringside view into what's going on in the world right now. But thank you again, General Shankar, for joining us, Colonel Avasti, and see you again next Saturday, same time, same place. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.